It's episode 25, and in yesterday's video, episode 24, we talked about how many pictures I take during a headshot session, which is around about 250 to 300. In today's video, we're talking about what happens afterwards. So what happens afterwards? The first thing is that I will sit down and sort through the pictures that we've taken. Rather than me showing you everything to be able to look through, because that is literally like a needle in a haystack, I try and organise them into a much more manageable number. My target is to get it down to around about 100 to 150, depending on how much variation we've done throughout the shoot. So I'm going to show you an example, which is with a lady that I shot last week called Zara Jones. She was great to be able to work with, and the shoot was really fun. So with Zara's shoot, I took 325 images on that session. We got lots of variety in the pictures, lots of different hairstyles, lots of different outfits, different styles of images, different moods, different vibes, that sort of thing. So the first thing I do is sort through the pictures and try and get it down to a much more manageable number. In this case, I've picked out 142 images to be able to show Zara that she can pick her final 6 from. That's much more manageable than the 325 that we took during the shoot. On top of that, I'll also pick out the ones that I feel are best choices. Now, this admittedly is from my eye, from a photographer's eye, rather than that of like a casting director or an agent or someone else that's in the acting industry. So take that advice with a little pinch of salt. Some people like to pay attention to these, and it gives them a good head start on which ones to be able to pick, but these are not necessarily the best pictures. These may be just technically the best. The way that I actually present these images to you, because this is the system that I use to be able to organise the pictures, is through a gallery system called Pixie Set. Now this is primarily designed for wedding photographers, but I found it works really well for headshots because it's got a great selection system built into the gallery. So this will work on pretty much any device as well, which is neat. So whether it's like a computer or a tablet or a phone, it's compatible with a ton of different devices. Now I always think personally, if you're picking your headshots, if you're picking your images, just use a device with as big a screen as possible. Ideally a better quality screen, but I think the worst thing you can do is pick them on your phone, just because everything looks good when it's a small little screen. You kind of want to see it as big as possible. So if we scroll through, it'll just keep on loading more and more pictures until we get to the end. And you can see it kind of looks like a contact sheet. It's very similar to that. It's like a modern version. Each picture has got a number underneath it. It's like this is number 006, number 7, number 8, and so on. And this is all images. There's also Tom's favorites up here. Those Tom's favorites are the ones that I'd selected in my software to be able to present as well. So it's just a reflection of that. It's identical. Now, whilst I'm looking through the images, if I click onto a picture, I get to see it full screen. I can really see the eyes, see if they're sharp, see if I'm happy, and if it's one that I'd like to pick. And you could just remember the numbers, which is one way that people go. But built into the gallery is this little favorite button up here. If I hit that, the first time I do it, it'll say, okay, what's your email address? And the only reason why is so it can track who's looking at which favorites. Because if you have multiple people looking at favorites, there could be you, your agent, a friend, a colleague. It needs to know who's looking at them as to which ones to be able to show. And you should see a little pop-up comes up, it says added to favorites, and the little heart icon on the top there is highlighted as well in red, so I know that that's been favorited. And normally what I recommend people do is go through the whole gallery and be kind of ruthless and be like, yeah, I like it, no, I don't. And if you do like it, hit favorite. If you don't like it, then don't hit favorite. I'm just going to randomly pick out a few just so I've got some variety to be able to work with. So I'm just going to come out of here, hit a little X, and I can immediately see which ones I've favorited because they've got these little heart icons in the top corners. And what's more, if I just want to see those favorites on their own, there's a heart in the top right corner. I can just hit my favorites and just see those together. Now at that point I could say, well, I need to get this down because I've got 7 pictures here. My final selection is going to be 6. So which one do I want to get rid of? This is quite nice because it's a slightly more profile picture rather than this, which is straight on, and we've got a lot of other straight on pictures in here. So if I want to remove it, all I have to do is hit the little heart again, and I've got an option to remove, and it just gets rid of it from that gallery. It's really, really easy to whittle it down. So you could make that initial pass where you pick out a lot of pictures. You might get it down from that bigger amount of 100 to 150 down to a much more manageable size, like say 15 or 20. And then it's much easier to pick out 6 pictures from that than it is from the full gallery. And then once you're happy and you've got your final selection, you've created that list, there's a little share button up here, and you've got an option to be able to say send to photographer. And that just gives me a link to be able to say, hey, these are the ones that I would like to be able to pick. So once I've got your selections in, what I'll do next is have a look through them and just make sure that they're all technically good, that they're all sharp before they get edited. So say if it was picture 7, I would have a look at this picture and zoom in to be able to see a little bit more detail. And what I'm looking at is just to make sure that people's eyes are sharp, that the focus hasn't fallen behind their eye. If it has, then the chances are that I've got another picture which is like 99% similar that I can show you. And I'll always check, if we are going to swap it for a different one, I'll always ask first if it's cool for us to be able to do that. In the event that I haven't got a picture that's exactly the same as it, maybe it's a little bit of sharpening that I can do to be able to make it better. Or worst case scenario is that maybe you pick a different picture if we have to. But ultimately it's your choice. I'd rather just give people an option. The next step after that is the images get edited, and I present a version in colour and black and white, and you get two different sizes as well. The small size, which is good for web, things like Spotlight and Facebook and Casting Call Pro, Mandy, and there's also a print size version, which is the full resolution image, in case it needs to be printed. So that's it for today's quick video. I'm going to do another one, I think, on what actually gets done when I'm editing images, because I think that is important to be able to talk about. There's probably a bad stigma about too much Photoshop. But if it's used very sparingly and very carefully, and hopefully with an expert hand, then it can look as though the image is really natural and nothing has been changed with it. Ultimately, yeah, I want the picture to look like you, just on your best day. Anyway, that is it for today's video. I will see you tomorrow.